No, it's like I found myself like getting tense because like it's the story is so tense, but that's what this podcast is all about. And I mean, you definitely like brought it to life. Wow. Hey, welcome to Powerful Shares. I'm here to connect. I'm Melissa, and here we discuss powerful, vulnerable stories, hoping to connect with different populations of people out there because nobody is alone in their suffering, in their joy, in their struggles, anything in life, really. Today, we're going to be covering a topic about addiction, and my guest today is Sara, and she's going to be covering a story about a relationship she found herself in where her partner struggled with addiction. Sara, thank you so much for coming. It's such an honor having you here, and I'm really excited for you to share your story.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
So let's hear it. How would you share your story? Starting from the beginning, where did you meet this person?
I met this person at the gym.
Okay.
And at first, I really wasn't interested in them. And at the time, I'm a trainer.
Okay.
And I was assigned to him, right? Like we get assigned like who we're going to work with or whatever. And
so he was your client?
He was my client.
Okay.
But this is like, there was nothing going on at the time except maybe some red flags that I should have clued into, but like I just didn't.
So what happened? How did you end up dating him?
I think he knew he wanted to date me.
Okay.
Because after our training sessions, he would sit with me as I was like doing my paperwork and charts and like whatever, and ask me questions like about my personal life. We would sit afterwards and we would talk and we would chat or whatever. And that's kind of how it started. I see, like, because no one spends like 30 minutes talking to you after their session unless they really,
Unless it's like an intention.
Right.
So, okay. So then how did you end up dating him?
So we ended like our sessions, like training together or whatever. But he would still come to the gym and still talk to me and blah, blah, blah. And like at some point, and like, told me what he was doing. Like I got to know him, right, as a person. And then Valentine's Day rolls around. And he's like, what are you doing for Valentine's? At the gym, we're at the gym. He's like, do you have any plans for tonight? What are you doing for Valentine's Day? And I'm like, nothing. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not doing anything for Valentine's Day. He's like, no, we're going to go out. We're going to have dinner. I'm like, we're not going to go have dinner. Like, I was not interested. Like, he was handsome, but I just kind of don't where I eat for the most part, And I was like, I'm not doing, He said, yes, I'm going to come pick you up. We're going to go to dinner. And I said, okay, sure. Here's my address. So sure enough, it's like 7 p.m. on Valentine's Day. I did not think he was going to show up. Like, this person has flaked on their training sessions. He's like extremely like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's never had like 100% follow through on anything.
Yeah.
He gets away with being like cute and charming, which is also like, there was a part of that where I was like, I'm not
playing in.
Yeah. We're not buying into this. Like, just because you're really handsome and have like a great mouthpiece and like are very suave, I'm extra like, no way.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's like 7:00. I'm like watching TV and there's a call like on my cell phone. I pick up and he's like, hey. I was like, what's up? And he's like, come outside. And I was like, what? And he's like, come outside.
He really showed up.
He showed up with flowers, with flowers.
Don't even tell me red roses.
Red roses.
No.
Yeah, because I remember we talked about roses and lilies being my favorite. He showed up with roses and lilies, like a bouquet. I don't know where he got it from because it was a pretty nice bouquet for a last minute situation. And then we went to dinner. And it was a very like knight in shining armor moment. That was the moment I was like, I'm interested, bug, because you are fine as hell.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like what's going on? We went dancing and we had a glass of champagne and it was just, he was crazy fun. Like it was a split of champagne and we hadn't finished it and he like put it in his jacket pocket and we just walked out of the club. Like, I don't do stuff like that.
Yeah. And like, okay, like risky, but like it's exciting.
Yeah. And it's not even that risky. It's like, a slap on the hand risky. But to me, it was like, wow. Cause
Yeah.
I'm a pretty like square person these days.
Yeah.
And then like, we like kissed or whatever and it was good, like whatever. And like I kind of started and he serenaded me and he could sing, he sang for me. And it was just like all of the charm. And, I'm having a couple of drinks at this point. So, inhibitions are a little bit lowered. Then we go back to my house. This is where I was like, oh, I like him. We legitimately, like, he slept outside the sheets. I slept inside of the sheets. We both had our clothes on. Like, we laid next to each other. We held hands and we, like, fell asleep.
Oh, cute.
Like, that's it. That's all that happened. And he didn't try to, like, sleep with me. Didn't try to sleep with me for the next, like, couple of dates.
So you're like googly eyes, like in Fantasyland, anybody would be.
Yeah, like
right?
I had to take my car to the repair shop. The repair guys were trying to like screw me out of like money and taking way too long. I mean, he put his foot down and just really like, like he handled it. Like he like took me out to breakfast and like I started spending that at his house too. And like his apartment was like perfectly fine, like totally normal, like kind of a seedy part of town. Later on, I came to find out that it was like they had a section of the housing that was for like ex-inmates.
Oh, really?
And it was like government housing.
Was he an inmate?
He was, yeah. He
What?
had a prison
for real?
record. Yeah.
Oh, for real?
Like assault, battery.
Okay, okay, so pause. How long did this go on for before you realized that he like had all sorts of issues going on and addiction problems?
But I started noticing like weird patterns, maybe, and they were getting worse and worse and worse because when he was in a rehab program, I found out later where that was keeping him clean for a little while, and then slowly, as he became, the time like between him and being in prison like expanded. Do you know what I mean? Not being, being free.
Okay, so he met you fresh out of rehab.
Fresh out of rehab, fresh out of prison.
Oh,
I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
The thing was, he was clean because he had been through a rehab program fresh out of prison. So I think that's why I got this good version of him.
So you meet him fresh out of prison, fresh out of rehab. So the more time that goes by, the more you're starting to see signs.
Because he's starting to run the streets again, do his old dirt again.
Right.
That he wasn't doing when he had a parole officer and da-da-da-da-da.
Right. So when he first met you, he was on good behavior.
Yes.
And that only lasted so long.
Like 3 weeks?
Like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, for real.
It was just so many multiple pieces going on at the same time. Like, I think the first thing I remember is like his mood started changing.
Okay.
And he would leave. Like 3 weeks into it, his mood started changing. Like he would just snap at me randomly, right? And it was like, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong.
Ooh, okay.
And it was happening a lot. Like, he was hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. And like, I really, by this point, like I really was like, well, it must be me because it was like 3 weeks of like this amazing situation, and I'm usually so like consumed in like my career and stuff, like. And I've never had somebody that's like, I've had like that chemistry with, like, I don't even, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you guys clicked.
Yeah, but I also think that click, and this is a total, it's a sidebar. I think that click comes from a lot of the stuff within myself that I hadn't worked on.
Right.
Right. My demons, my issues,
Yeah.
like from my childhood and stuff that I hadn't worked through.
Right.
So like that's what you're gravitating towards is what you know. Even though it's on a subconscious level.
Right.
So I think a lot of that was going on, which is why it made it so hard to let go at all. But yeah, so I remember he would like just excuse himself, and then he would come back and like
he'd snap at you, excuse himself, and then come back?
Yeah. No, snap at me. And then like, yeah, excuse himself, come back, and then just be like weird. And like, come to find out some of the time he was out in my bushes smoking meth. Other times, because I would smell it on his breath, I would confront him. He was drinking alcohol. One time he like propositioned some lady at like Pavilions, I came to find out, that was in the liquor aisle for alcohol. Propositioned her. Like, I don't know what he propositioned her with, but I know it was sexual in nature.
For real?
Yes. All of a sudden, he went from having money to like not having money. But I also think when he was on drugs, he was spending all the money he was making. But it turns out he was selling guns, like illegally.
That's how he was getting his money?
Yes.
So
out of a tent in like downtown somewhere. I just started getting sick of it at some point. Like first I started feeling guilty and trying to fix it. And the more I would try to fix it, the more agitated he got. And the more agitated he got, the more I would try to fix it. And the more I tried to fix it, the more he would pull away. But then the minute I was like, all right, well, this is enough. Like I'm not doing this. The minute I started pulling away, and he had a temper. So like he would like get in my face and like yell at me and like, do you know what I mean? There was just but it was a 180, like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or whatever. When I would start pulling away, all of a sudden, oh my God, babe, I'm so sorry. And then, you know, the flowers and the good behavior and da-da-da. And, you know, that would last 3 or 4 days. And then it was that same cycle of bad behavior, you know, unless he needed something. And if he needed something, like obviously he was kissing my ass.
Yeah. So at what point were you like, I'm done with this relationship, I want to be out?
Okay. So he had a friend named Mitch. Him and Mitch wanted to like hang out at my house for the weekend. I was going to be in Arizona at a conference. And I was like, yeah, cool. That's fine. Because they wanted to use my pool and like my gym and like whatever. And I was like, that's fine. Whatever. So I give him the keys to the house. I'm like, please just do me a solid and like, you know, just lock up after yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever. And he's like, okay, babe, I'm going to drop you off at the airport. And so he dropped me off at the airport, and then he was supposed to pick me up. Instead of picking me up, he's like throwing a fit on the phone and yelling at me when I'm at the airport asking him where he is, and keeps hanging up on me. Like, so I was like, that's fucking weird. Like, we haven't been in a fight. Like, I don't know what happened, da-da-da.
So it's like that explosive behavior again.
For no reason, though. Like, making me feel like I did something wrong.
Right.
I hadn't, you know? So then I get an Uber home or whatever, and I asked him to leave the key. He didn't. I had my key, so it was fine. He had the spare key. I go in. The AC is on. The windows are open. The fridge is open. All of these perishables like are like out. All the food is out. Like it looked like my house had been ransacked.
For real?
Yeah. I was enraged.
Yeah, because it's just like, what happened here?
Also, how dare you, after asking me to stay at my house, disrespect my home, and you didn't come pick me up? I know now he was busy getting high, so I was done.
I would have been freaking out.
And at this point, he'd been losing weight rapidly. Like,
so now, how far into the relationship are we at this point? Like a month and a half, 2 months?
Maybe a month and a half, 2 months. Yeah. I mean, like the actual relationship only probably lasted 2 months. Like that for me was the last straw. Like being intimate, any of that stuff.
That was it. That was the last straw.
Yeah, but he starts crying. And he's like, I want to get help. I want to stop using. This is when he starts like lingering.
Okay.
You know, and he's still just trying to sleep with me. Trying. And I'm like, bro, I do not want this with you anymore. I will help you get into rehab. I will help you, whatever. And he's like, no, but I love you and da-da-da. And like, I want a life with you and you don't understand, Sarah. Like, I'm going to change. And so like, I'm not going to lie. Like my heart was on the fence, you know, like I played it like I was done. But on the inside, like my heart was on the fence. Like, look, if this guy turns his life around, there was just something about, you know, when you just know that you have past lives or like are kindred spirits or there's something there.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's how you felt.
Yeah, but I do feel like God protected me because every time I feel like I would act on crossing that line, like was about to or like had some sort of feeling, some bullshit would go down. Like one time I found him, he was trying to take a selfie of us and we were having like, you know, like a cute moment. And instead of hitting the selfie button, this high motherfucker hit a play button on his phone and like there was the thing of him sleeping with some other girl that popped up. So like any sort of whatever I felt in that moment was just shattered because here he was sleeping with other women, but telling me he wasn't sleeping with other women because he wanted to win me back so badly.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
He was lying to me.
Right.
You know, and then he tried telling me that was old and da-da-da, but there's a timestamp on it. Like I was just all kinds of mess. So I think God protected me in that sense. And I think there was like a part of me, like a wounded child part of me that was searching for that validation of like, when he gets better, he's going to love me unconditionally.
Okay.
I don't think that was on a conscious level because the conscious grown-up me was like, I'm going to help this person get better because it's the right thing to do and you care about him. But like romantically, nothing will ever come of this.
So eventually you were no longer in love with them.
Yeah. I mean, very quickly.
So, okay. So you hit a point in all the shenanigans where you were no longer in love with them.
Mm-hmm.
but you obviously still felt for him and you wanted to get him help.
He was begging me for help. His mom lived in Mexico, and they belonged to a certain religion that's kind of cultish.
Okay.
His dad wanted nothing to do with him. His dad had a brand new, whole new family.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's rough.
He would always tell me, I'm going to win you back. I'm going to fix this. Help me get into rehab. And every rehab I got him into or whatever, he couldn't make it even through like the detox period, right? He would like, one time like he like verbally assaulted one of the counselors, so they kicked him out. Another time, you know, he called me and like verbally assaulted me because I wouldn't give him the keys to his house back until he completed rehab, because he asked me before going into rehab to not give him the house keys back until he completes the program.
Okay.
You know, and there were about 4 or 5 stints like that. One time I was visiting him in rehab and I brought him, he loved enchiladas. I brought him some enchiladas. Like, you know, I made them. He took the entire tray and threw it across the cafeteria in the middle of visitation. Yeah. I mean, and everything I gave him, he just was very destructive with. Like, I bought him a journal. Like, he fucking like waterlogged the journal somehow. I bought him like games, board games, so he could like entertain himself like in rehab, and like somehow they got soaked and flooded, and you know, everything, books got torn, and he was just a very destructive energy.
So at this time he was going in and out of rehab?
In and out of rehab.
So how many times roughly would you say that you helped him get in?
4.
Okay, so you helped him get in 4 times. Okay, and then after the 4th time, did he leave?
After the 4th time he left, he was like still clean, and he's like,
well, did he complete the program?
Oh no, he left. So there's 2 parts of the program. There's the detox part,
Right.
and then there's the actual like, I'm detoxed now, I'm rehabilitating.
Okay.
So he made it through the detox part,
Which is, can you explain what that is? Do you know what that is?
yeah. So basically what they do is, if you've been doing drugs or whatever, they take you out, they wean you off of the drugs.
Okay,
The
so is it like 60 days of hardcore?
It's 14 days.
Okay.
Basically, they monitor you like you're on suicide watch.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. It's, then they take you off of, like, they don't allow, like, you cold turkey your system.
Just
out
cold
of the
turkey,
drugs.
done all of it.
Yeah. And
okay.
then after that, you go into a program with counseling and tools on how to cope with addiction. And
that's the rehabilitation.
That's the rehabilitation part of the program.
And that's the second part.
That's the second part. So the first part, he had completed it, and then they needed to transport him in a couple of days to the rehabilitation part. So I was like, okay, when does that happen? It's supposed to happen seamlessly. Well, there were no beds available in the rehabilitation part of the program. So they couldn't hold him in the detox part of the program. They were like, he has to go somewhere. And he was like, Sarah, can I just stay with you? I don't want to go home. If I go home.
Oh, they would just send them
Release.
home?
Yeah,
they would release them?
Yeah.
Oh, that's dangerous.
It's stupid.
That's not setting somebody up for success.
No, it's not. I mean, it's really not. You know, and he wanted it. And by this time, he was like 6'2". He was maybe 130, 140 pounds. He had lost a lot of weight.
Okay.
I mean, I was worried about him. And I was like, yeah, cool. Yeah, you can stay with me for, 2 days or whatever.
Okay, so he wanted to stay with you.
Yeah, because he did not want to mess up, right? But someone staying with you that's fresh out of detox is like having an infant. The level of like care and attention and needs that need to be met, I am not equipped to handle. Right? I mean, like, he was up at all hours of the day, angsty, like having panic attacks, like crying, still moody, because, your brain is still, the hormones are still like trying to level off.
Yeah, 14 days isn't that long.
It's not that long. So I got to a point where I was like, I need a beat,
And this was how many days in?
This was like a day and a half in.
After him being with you?
Yeah. And
wow.
Like, it was just a lot. Like, he wasn't sleeping. He needed to stay up. He needed the TV on all night. Like, it was.
Oh, man.
The bathroom. He was going to the bathroom. Like, He was antsy. He was pacing. Do you know what I mean? His
Yeah.
body, chain smoking cigarettes off my balcony, just a lot of stuff. And so I needed a break.
Yeah.
I needed a break. And so I called his friend Mitch, whom I trusted. Found out later this guy was also doing drugs. I didn't know. And I said, Mitch, I just need you to take him for a couple of hours. Mitch takes him for a couple of hours. Turns out that him and Mitch went off and did drugs. So when he came back, it was a whole different situation.
Oh my gosh.
And like he threatened to throw himself off my balcony if I left. Like, it was a mess. It was a mess. So I call his mom, and his mom is like not helpful. His mom is basically like, well, just if that's what he wants to do, Sarah, he has to learn the hard way, or you can call the 911. I'm like, this is your son. Like, what are you saying right now? Like, you need to talk him off this ledge. I didn't give birth to this person.
Right.
And like she didn't care. So anyway, that for me was the breaking point and the ending point. And that was when I really did cut things off.
Okay.
I was done. He wasn't done. He wanted to win me back. He would pop up outside of my like garage, like at 5 a.m. when I was going to work out, or like somehow hop. Like I have security and a fence, and like, my property's gated. He would, hop the gate and like knock on my door and like call until I answered. There was a time he was on my balcony. I don't know how he scaled.
What floor are you on?
I'm on the second floor.
So he crawled up the side of the building?
I think because I have a balcony below me, he jumped the fence, jumped onto the balcony below me, somehow got up to my balcony, knocking on my...
No way.
Yeah.
So were you sleeping?
Yeah, girl, of course. I'm like...
So all sorts of chaos is just going on.
I mean, this man has lost his dad. He's like, I'm going to do anything to win you back. Like, Sarah... And then, he would call.
So after this whole thing with Mitch, and then you were just absolutely done.
Yeah.
Did he ever go back into rehab after that?
No, he kept sending me empty promises. Just like saying like, I'm going to get into rehab. I'm really...
And you just like weren't answering?
No, he would leave me voice messages though. Like, I'm going to get into rehab, baby doll. Like, baby doll. I'm going to... I want to have kids with you, and I just want a normal life, and I really just I'm just really sick, and I just want to get better. Like, I'm so sorry I've put you through this.
So how long did this go on for? Where he's hitting you up and you're just ignoring it.
Yeah. Or if I did answer, I would just be so enraged. I had his suitcases and stuff because he had just gotten out of rehab still, remember? Mm-hmm. And I said, I've left your suitcases outside. Like, you can pick them up. He came to pick up his suitcases and barricaded me in my house for like 3 days. He slept on my porch.
Wait, whoa. He was outside the front of your door?
Yes. Like guarded
for how long? 3 days?
3 days.
And did people walking by think that this was...
He would hide.
Oh, wow.
He would hide. And I called the management of the office was like, there's nothing we can do. You have to call the police. So I called the police. He would hear the police. He would hide. Because there's my door, and then there's like around the corner, there's like a stairwell.
Okay.
Where you can like go under the stairwell and not be seen.
And that's where he would go?
And that's where he would go. My neighbors across the way, who were very worried about me, they can look into my front door because they're a floor up.
Okay.
And God bless them. I love them. They called the police a couple of times and texted me to see if I was okay. And I think I was just in the throes of like fight or flight.
Yeah.
And having like PTSD triggers from like, again, like it's so funny, like these patterns that like keep reemerging. So I didn't know what to do. I was just completely shut down. My friend, no one knew what was going on with me. I was just MIA because I was just so scared and so shocked. And like, so finally I have a dear friend, she was like blowing me up, and this is in the middle of COVID at this point. Right. So we're already like semi-isolated. She's like, are you okay? I haven't heard from you. no one had really heard from me. And we all were all kind of not hearing from each other anyway because of COVID. It was a very weird time.
Yeah.
I tell her what happened and I'm like, but I'm fine. She's like, you're not fine. Like, you're being harassed. You've been like verbally assaulted. Like, this has been going on for too long. Because there were a couple of incidents in the middle where like he actually got in my face and like had a knife to me. And I was like,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. Hi, all the time. Hi. And then every time right after that is when he would go to rehab. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was always like a high moment of like something very dramatic where he would threaten my life or like whatever. But the fact that I would sit there and even take it speaks volumes about my own trauma. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like who in their right mind didn't just call the cops then?
Right.
You know, so there's a part of me that's very thankful that I went through this with him because it forced me to look at my own shit and start healing my own shit.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, girl.
But I'm like, Tanya, and I tell her quickly what happened. She's like, Sarah, no, like, I'm going to come get you. And I was like, no, I don't need help. She's like, well, then can you leave your house? And I was like, no. She's like, when was the last time you left your house? And I was like, 3 days ago. She's like, no, you need to leave your house. I'm like, I can't leave my house. Like, I was in such a state of like panic and fight or flight. Like, I couldn't leave my house physically. Like, I'm not fight or flight, freeze. I was just frozen. So finally, she's like, pack your bags. I'm going to be there in 30 minutes. Like, I'm scared at this point. She's like, you're going to leave all of his stuff outside of your property. So if he wants it, he can get it outside of your property line. And so finally, I packed my suitcase and like somehow by the grace, Tawny walked upstairs, checked my door. She's like, you're safe. Let me in. Escorted me down to my car, looked around, made sure I could get out. I went and stayed with her for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. And then, you know, we went to Sedona for like a week. She had planned a trip and she was like, you're coming with me. You need to come with me.
Right. Yeah.
I can't have you alone. But anyway, so within that time, when I finally started feeling a little bit more settled, like within that day or two, she was like, we need to get you a restraining order. We're in Sedona at the time he gets it.
Okay.
I start getting a barrage of phone calls from him.
Uh-oh.
You know, I always had this really soft spot for him because I think when you've been abused, you have a very soft spot for someone who has also experienced abuse. And you know, it broke my heart, but I also knew I had to protect myself. Like,
yeah.
The further away I got from that, especially physically being in like in Arizona and feeling like I could be safe for a minute, the more clearly I could see what had been done to me, the manipulation and all of that stuff. And I get that a lot of it was the drugs, but at the same time, I no longer felt like inclined to help this man.
Yeah.
You know, like I couldn't do it. Like it broke my heart. I did a lot for him that like we can't even like go into on this podcast.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff. You know, he had never had a birthday party. I threw him a birthday party. There was just a ton of stuff. Like I gave everything to this person to try to show them that they were loved and cared for. But I think I'd reached that point where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And so I hadn't heard from him for a while and he hadn't heard from me for a while, which was great. He wasn't.
So what does that mean, a while?
Probably 3 months, 2 months.
Oh, okay. So a significant amount of time goes by where...
Yeah, he didn't show up so this was a temporary restraining order that was put in.
Right.
He didn't show up for the final restraining order hearing. Mm-hmm. And he was served the papers, which was the next time I heard from him. He was served the permanent papers.
Okay.
And he calls me like, I don't care. We're going to end up back together. I'm going to get clean.
So again...
That same pattern.
So again, not listening to the restraining order.
Right. I should have called the police, but he would have been arrested.
And you didn't want him to?
I didn't want him to go back to jail.
Well, at this point, don't you think jail was maybe the best place for him?
Yeah. I mean, he should have gone to jail. But let me tell you, a lot of the reason I also didn't want him to go to jail is in between that time when he had violated the temporary restraining order, he had OD'd and flatlined and they brought him back to life twice.
What?
Yeah. And he reached out to me.
And he reached out.
which is also, I was like, I can't have this man go to jail. Like he was like a cat with 9 lives. He just kept dodging the bullet.
So, okay, why didn't you think jail was good then?
I felt like his life would be over, you know? And then he contracted Hep C somehow and started getting really sick. And like his kidneys were failing. He was dying.
Okay, all right. Whoa, this is so intense. So a piece of you must have still felt like there was hope for him if you were afraid that if he went to jail, his life would be over. Yeah. You were still holding out hope for this human's life. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Now I understand.
And I feel like, again, like it's that past life, kindred spirit connection. I felt like that was still there. And almost a part of me was like, am I supposed to like is there some karma between us that I'm supposed to try to remedy?
Yeah, you were like bringing it back to yourself, almost like blaming yourself or something.
There was a lot of self-blame and a lot of self-guilt.
Yes.
There. I think he saw that and I think he played on it.
Right. So you hadn't talked to him for a couple months. And then the final
restraining order comes through. He contacts you.
Yeah. You didn't want to call the cops because you were holding out hope for this human's, not for a relationship with you, but this human's life.
Yeah.
So what happens from there?
There's a big period of time where I don't really hear from him, or if I do, I just don't return the call or whatever. It's very infrequent. And I think this is when he was getting really heavily into like drugs. Like he was really depressed.
Well, he was already really, it sounds like he was already really heavily.
But I mean like.
Even furthermore?
Yeah, like I think. You know, like he was like on the verge of losing his house. So, like somewhere in between that period, like I would get random calls like, oh my God, like my stove caught on fire. He was so up on fentanyl that like he just let the kitchen burn down.
Oh my goodness. Just real crazy stuff.
Yeah. Like he left his shower on and the bathroom flooded.
Oh my goodness.
And he's like, they're blaming me for stuff I didn't do, Sarah. And I'm like, you were probably so high.
Yeah.
He was on his last leg of like being kicked out of that housing.
Okay.
And I call it housing because it was like government subsidized.
Right.
Or at least his unit was. So I just heard from him few and far between, but it was almost like instinctually he knew when I started dating somebody, because I started dating someone. And I also like had this weird feeling in my stomach that he was going to like come around. And there's like a knock on my door. Like I'm watching a movie with this person. This person had flown in, you know, he lived out of state. And I'm watching a movie with this person. There's a knock on the door. First, there's a million phone calls and I see it's him and it just weirds me out. And, you know, my guy I'm dating at the time asks me, he's like, who is it? I tell him, and he knew the entire story. I listened to the voicemail and he's like, so he owed me a lot of money. And he's like, I have the money I owe you. I really just need to see you. Like, I miss you so much. This is 2 days before his 40th birthday.
Okay.
And I just ignore it. Next thing I know, there's a knock on my door.
Oh my goodness.
And
you know it's him.
It's him. He's like, Sarah, I have your money. I love you,
so
sweet
he's now
pea. I miss you,
he's
sweet
yelling
pea.
through the door?
Through the door. And my boyfriend or whatever at the time is like, Sarah, I'm going to answer this door. I'm like, do not answer the door. Do not answer the door. Do not answer the door. You know, like, and he's pissed and rightfully so.
Yeah.
You know, he's trying to protect me. He's trying to protect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then on the other side of the door, you have, you know, my ex. Finally, he leaves. I get a barrage of phone calls and text messages. I just wanted to leave. I just wanted to give you your money. Like, I really miss you. I'm not in a good place. I need help. I think I looked through the peephole. I remember looking through the peephole. And he looked like he was like 75 years old and like 98 pounds.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I haven't thought about that in like a really long time, just how he looked. He looked like probably our grandparents would look.
That's crazy.
Because
that is so sad.
So sad. And he was
so sad.
He always wore this leather jacket And his leather jacket, I remember looking through the peephole, his leather jacket, it looked like it could fit like two of him.
Wow.
Like it was that, he
Yeah.
lost that much weight. So I just have this really unsettling feeling in my stomach the next day. And I'm in yoga and I just have this feeling. Just this feeling. And I'm just like, I don't know why I feel this way. I'm really like saddened and worried. And I always leave my phone in the car when I go to yoga. And I get a voicemail from the ex's sister like, hey, they found so-and-so's body last night. He overdosed.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I was like, are you sure it's him? Like, I was sure he was going to like die in the streets. Apparently this was in his apartment. He like went to sleep and never woke up. And no one knew where he lived except me. And
Oh my goodness.
like the mom wasn't going to come up from Mexico. The dad was not going to come up from Orange County. The county was going to claim him. But I needed to know.
How did his sister find out?
Mom.
How did his mom find out?
Police.
How did the police get it? Why would they already be there? It sounds like you went to yoga the next morning.
Yes.
Okay, so how does this unfold? Because that's strange. The police would just enter his apartment.
Yeah. So here's what happened. So apparently that night he came to my door. The building manager was like, "Oh, so and so, where are you going?" He had on a suit. He had on had flowers in his hand. Apparently he said to the building manager, "I'm going to go get my girlfriend back." So he was coming over to my house.
Oh my goodness.
And he had my money and all that stuff. So then all that stuff happens. Then the building manager says they watch the cameras and he walks in looking all defeated around like, I don't know, whatever time it was, 1 a.m. and has some girl with him like on his arm and like a bucket of like Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Wow.
So apparently he found some girl or maybe was sleeping with this girl. I don't know.
After he left your place.
After he left my place, they go upstairs and I'll tell you how the building manager found out in a second. They go upstairs and they're doing drugs together. And he has a Narcan kit, which could have saved his life, right next to him. So they're doing drugs. Then the next morning, this girl's walking around the halls of the apartment complex and the building manager is like, seeing her through the cameras and comes up and is like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "I'm so-and-so's friend."
Yeah.
She's like, "Okay, well, where's so-and-so?" Because no one's supposed to be just wandering around the halls, like that's loitering.
Yeah.
And it's like, "Well, he's in his apartment." And she's like, "Okay, well, go get him." And she's like, "Well, I can't." It's like, "Why?" "I think something really bad happened last night." It's like, "What do you mean something really bad happened last night?" "Well, he's not breathing." So the building manager goes in. He's gone, like all gray. Asked the girl what happened. The girl was like, "Well, he said he didn't feel well and he just wanted to go to sleep. So we were both getting high and we just went to sleep and he never woke back up. He overdosed."
Yeah.
And she's an idiot. She could have saved him. They had the Narcan kit right next to her. They were both so high. And the police just let her walk off. And
that was going to be my next question. So what happened with her?
No one questioned.
So they
all of his jewelry, his money, all that stuff was missing.
Okay. So you mean to tell me that she walks in with the girl, manager walks in with this girl to his apartment. Mm-hmm. There he is dead. Mm-hmm. She questions the girl and she says we did drugs and he never woke back up, basically.
Yeah.
Manager calls the cops.
Yeah.
Is the girl already gone by that point?
Girl walked off.
The manager didn't stop her. I mean, I guess yeah. And then they never went looking for her.
No.
Wow. Okay.
And all of his all of his valuables were missing. The family has enough money. They're not like balling.
Right.
But they were like, oh, just give the body to the county. And
What?
he was sitting in the county morgue for like months, 2 months,
So
3 months. No one came to claim his body.
That is so...
I mean, it gives you the level.
that is so achingly sad.
Doesn't that just give you context to how it makes sense to why he was so...
Yes.
I also know that there were times where he was being abused or whatever and told his mom, and because of the church or whatever, she like ignored it and disregarded it.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's crazy.
And I knew he grew up in a house that had a lot of domestic abuse as well, according to him.
That's so heavy, Sarah.
I know.
Holy cow.
So first of all, he died in December. The county didn't cremate the body till like February because they have a wait list or whatever. And then in like April or May, the dad came down from the OC to get the body, to get the remains.
Oh, okay. So he did come and get the remains then.
In May when he was burned in February.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Wow. That's like so heavy. So can I ask you a couple questions now?
You can ask me all the questions. Yeah.
Okay. So how have you gotten through? This is so heavy. This whole thing is heavy. The whole thing is so thick with like dense energy.
Yeah.
I'm a bit lost for words, but my main question for you is how have you navigated through the bigger picture of all of this? Meaning, in hindsight, you're now looking at this situation that you were involved in that was so toxic. I know that your heartstrings were being pulled in so many ways and you had so much hope for him, for a better life, kindred spirits that had you connected to him. Now, with it, for the most part, being wrapped up, how are you navigating through the bigger picture of this and how it ended? It did not end the way you were hoping for it to end.
No. I think a lot of after he passed, I grieved. I blamed myself a lot. I was angry with God. Even though I didn't like this human being, by the end of it, I still had love for this human being. And, he had such a hard life that there was a part of me that was like, dude, he like deserved another chance. I got into counseling. I found a therapist. Yeah. And just because I couldn't figure out my anger and my tears, like I was like, like, let me do tarot cards, see if I can contact him. Let me get a psychic, like anything for resolution. Like I was just, and I had a string of really bad dreams about him after he passed away.
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
And he was not nice in that. Like he was like the devil incarnate. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But in life, like in my, like when I was awake and like I was angry with God and I like was crying and I was sad for him. And then, in the meantime, my current relationship was falling apart because that boyfriend couldn't understand why and how I could mourn and be sad and have love for somebody that treated me the way this man treated me.
Right. It sounds like just so conflicted.
Yeah.
Right? Like feelings, like you said, you felt guilty.
Yeah.
Right? And can I touch upon that really quick?
Yeah.
So knowing that he was at your apartment door the night before.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't like, you can't blame yourself. I hope you don't blame yourself for this.
I don't now. I don't anymore. No.
So are you saying that at one point you did blame yourself?
Absolutely.
And you had all that guilt?
Yeah.
Simply because he was at your place before.
His whole purpose was to come to my house and like
get you back.
Get me back. And had that happened, it might have changed the course of anything he had done that night, even if I had just opened the door.
Right. I think that in a situation that is this, in your situation, I don't think that there's a way to navigate through it without the experience of guilt.
It forced me to go back to therapy and do a lot of body work to release that energy. I don't think it was just his energy. I think it was energy from a lot of past stuff that even like drew us together, my past stuff and his past stuff. Like we mirrored each other in a lot of ways. And it took a lot of therapy. Look, if I had listened to my instincts from jump, I wouldn't have gotten involved with this person.
Right.
I look back on it now and I'm like, you know, it forced me to grow. Like there's like a delineation almost between like pre this person and post this person of who I am.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was like just thinking. It's almost like this like defining moment in life, defining time in life that really changed the game for you.
Yeah. And who I am.
And who you are. This is nothing. It's one of those things where you'll never get over it, but you learn to live with it.
Yeah.
Does that resonate?
Yeah. And I think that it forced a maturity on me, a respect for myself on me, boundary settings on me, trusting my instinct, a lot of focus, like things I think I lost along the way, and things I think that I had at some point that he somewhat chipped away at with his manipulation too. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really, I've grown so much as a human being from that experience. And I handle things a lot differently now with a lot more objective, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Evaluation of things. I listen to my gut, my instinct a lot more now. I think that's a lot of, I don't take anything for granted anymore. Like I can see the value and the beauty in these little things I took for granted before.
Yeah.
Even just like breathing. Or like having enough sense and smarts and like work ethic to like heal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because there are people who just stew in their own stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
I've just become like really grateful. You know?
Good for you. This is huge, and somebody to go through this and be able to come out.
Yeah.
Bravo and good on you.
Thank
you know,
you.
because you said it. You could sit and stew in it, but you've chosen to take it and look at it, dissect it, and see how can this make you a better version of yourself.
Yeah. It forced me to disassemble these negative patterns that I had.
Right. Wow. Wow. Good for you.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank
I'm so
you.
sorry that you went through such a tragic experience, but I'm so proud of you that you've come out in the light.
Yeah.
You've made your way out of it, and I think that's really powerful. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that are probably have experienced or maybe currently experiencing similar, maybe not necessarily with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but a loved one.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that your share is sort of, in a way, telling us that, hey, you know, even though it didn't turn out good, you were able to still find and experience hope in your life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow, Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was a share.
I know. That was a lot of battery life.
That was so brave, and I'm just like honored and grateful that like you're on this podcast with me. Thank you so much.
My therapist. I think she made it okay to talk about it.
Wow, girl. Man. If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please reach out to 988. It's a suicide and crisis lifeline. Also, Alcoholics Anonymous and or Narcotics Anonymous. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you gained something from this podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe and share. Also, please like, subscribe, and share however you listen to your podcasts. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.